In this lesson, we're going to look at a real writing task to answer from a student. We're going to talk about what the student did well, what the student can do better for next time, and at the end, we will talk about the band score. Let's start by looking at the question that the student had to write an answer for. On the screen, you can see the question right now, so let's have a look. You should spend about 40 minutes on this task. That's very, very important because Task 2 is worth 66% for your overall writing score. Write about the following topic. Okay, so here is the topic. Some people say that history is one of the most important school subjects. Other people think that in today's world, subjects like science and technology are more important than history. Okay, discuss both these views and give your own opinion. So the first thing to mention there is that the question is asking for both of these views. That means you need to talk about two views. And then secondly, it's asking for the opinion. So to score high in task response, you need to complete both of these requirements. Now let's just quickly have a look at this. Both these views. What are these views? What are the two views the question is talking about? Well, the first one is this here. History is one of the most important school subjects. That is the first view. The second view is what other people say. Subjects like science and technology are more important than history. This is the second view. So the student needs to talk about both of these to score high in task response. So let's have a look at the answer and see if they did that. All right, so here is the student's answer. We're going to go through it sentence by sentence. So let's start with the introduction. So it says, some groups of citizens believe that history is one of the most vital school subjects. Okay, that's good because it's talking about the first side of the question. While other individuals think that in today's world, some nice grammar there, science and technology are more essential. Well, that's good because it's talking about the second view. Now, the problem I can see straight away with this introduction is it's way too short. So let me write that up there in red. It's way too short. There are so many other things that the student could have included. For example, they could have started by just saying something about the general topic rather than the actual two sides. The other thing that I can see that's missing is an opinion. The question asks for an opinion, but the introduction doesn't have an opinion. Now, it's not 100% necessary to put your opinion in the introduction, but I think you should. I think it's very useful because it makes it clear from the very start what you think about this topic. And remember, the question said, give your opinion, but it's not there in the introduction. Another thing that would be quite useful is just having an outline. So for example, saying something like, in this essay, I will discuss ... That's going to make it really clear to the examiner or the reader what the writer is going to talk about. Now, just in regards to the grammar, I think the grammar is quite good. It's a very long, complex sentence, and I can't see any mistakes. So that's a really great start because a lot of students in their very first sentence, they often have mistakes, and that obviously isn't a good start. So that's the introduction. Let's move on now, and we'll talk about the first body paragraph. So on the one hand, history can help learners understand the past. Okay, great. So this appears to be the first main idea, okay, understanding the past. And again, there's no grammar mistakes there, so this is looking really good for the grammar. Students can comprehend, okay, that's a nice piece of vocabulary, how their country and the world have evolved over time. So straight away, I'm seeing two pieces of less common vocabulary. So I'm already getting the feeling this is probably going to be a band 7 for the vocabulary. In regards to the grammar, no mistakes there. So that looks good as well. Let's continue. School children learn from experience. Okay, that's a short, simple sentence. And there's nothing wrong with writing simple sentences in your writing task too, but you need a mix of complex sentences and some more simple sentences. Now, just going back to the previous sentence, if you remember, this is the main idea, okay, understanding the past. And then this stuff here, students can comprehend, school children learn, well, this is support. And to get a high band score in task response, you need to give support. So the student is doing the right things here in regards to supporting their answers. So let's keep reading. For instance, learning about wars and colonization, okay, another great piece of vocab, can teach students why peace, justice, and freedom are crucial for a harmonious society. So we've got some really great vocabulary there. Colonization, harmonious. These are clearly showing me that this student's vocabulary is probably 7, maybe even 8. So we'll see what happens over the rest of the essay. Again, I don't see any grammar mistakes here, so the grammar is looking good. In regards to the coherence and cohesion, I think it's okay, but the word, let me just change the color here. The phrase for instance, that's a very common phrase. So to improve, I think the student could use something a bit more high level here, something a little bit less mechanical. All right, let's keep reading. There we go. There's another one. Okay, furthermore, let's keep reading. History. Let me change that. History enables students, okay, great word, enable, to appreciate cultural diversity and also learn from the successes and failures of previous generations. Something I like is that the student is using their plural and singular nouns correctly. This is one of the biggest mistakes I see students make with grammar, is they forget their S or they forget their ES. So always think about when you're talking about nouns, are you talking about one noun or are you talking about more than one? Do you need an S? Do you not need an S? Always think about that. Now, this last sentence appears to be another main idea. It says it enables students to appreciate cultural diversity. I'm not sure if that's another main idea or that's more support. I think it's another main idea. So it looks like the student has 2 main ideas. Number 1's up here and number 2's down here. Now, the problem with this last sentence is there's no support. There's no extra information to talk about what this means. The student has said it enables students to appreciate cultural diversity. Okay, well, how? Why? Why is that important? How does it happen? So, yeah, I think it would be better if the student had a little bit more support here. Now, going back to the grammar, I think this is a great sentence. I can't see any mistakes. So the student is doing quite well with the grammar. Overall, with this paragraph, I think it's okay. I think that the vocab is great. I think that the grammar is great. But when it comes to the support, I think there should be a little bit more. Because for a band 8 for task response, the band descriptors say that your support is well extended or well developed. So you need to give really good support. But the student hasn't done that in this paragraph. So I'm leaning more towards a 7 for the task response at the moment. All right, let's move on. And we'll see how the second paragraph does. So on the other hand, okay, that's nice. We're clearly telling the examiner we're going to move on to something else now. That's great. Many people believe that science and technology are more paramount. Nice vocabulary nowadays. Okay, so it's quite clear that in this paragraph, the student's going to talk about the other side now. So that's really good when it comes to the coherence and cohesion. It's very clear and easy to follow. Let's continue with the next sentence. This is because. Okay, this is great. This word here. This is an example of referencing. Referencing. And this is going to boost the coherence and cohesion band. So that, actually, I might just delete that just to make it easier. Referencing. Okay, let's continue. So this is because we live in a world that depends heavily, okay, nice vocab, nice grammar, on technology. So this looks like the first main idea. We're saying that, in the world today, we rely a lot on technology. That's why science and technology are important. Let's keep reading now. Subjects such as computer science, biology, and engineering. Okay, I'm just going to put these in red, and I'm going to explain why. A lot of students like to do this. They like to list things. They say physics, biology, engineering. Okay, well, that's great, but it doesn't really add to your answer. These are very basic words, and most people know the word biology. Most people know the word physics. Most people know the word or the phrase computer science. What would be better if you choose one and then you focus on that topic or that word? Because that's going to improve your task response. You're giving more support instead of just listing things one after the other. Let's keep reading. Can help students pursue. Okay, pursue, great word, successful careers and solve real life problems. Okay, fantastic. For example, again, very simple way to give an example. It would be nice if the student used something a bit more interesting or something a bit higher level and something that just flows a bit easier or a bit nicer. Let's keep reading. So for example, technologies can help combat, okay, great word there, diseases and improve healthcare systems. Okay, again, there's just not enough support there. There needs to be more support, especially if the student wants a band 8 for task response. So overall, I think this paragraph is okay. It's a little bit short. As you can see, it's the same length as the conclusion. This paragraph here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The paragraph below has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. Now, the body paragraphs, that's where the detail should be. But the student doesn't appear to have put enough detail in the body paragraphs. They've got some great grammar, some great vocabulary. If they supported their answers more, this would help to boost their score even further. All right, let's move on to the last paragraph now, which is the conclusion. So in my opinion, while both subjects are imperative, another piece of high-level vocabulary, science and technology should be given more attention. Nice grammar in school because of their practical values, some more nice vocabulary. Okay, so this is the opinion, which is very important because remember, the question asks for the opinion. So you need to remember to make your opinion very clear and very easy for the examiner to find or see. Let's move on to the next sentence now. Moreover, okay, another example. It's a little of the, mechanical linking that we talked about before. So I might just put that into red. Let's keep going. They are useful for the future and help students prepare for modern jobs. Okay. Okay, now I've just noticed that there is an example of referencing here. That's referring to science and technology. Okay, so that's great for the coherence and cohesion. Moving on, and nevertheless, okay, another one of those words. There's probably better ways to continue there instead of saying, moreover or nevertheless. History should still be taught. Okay, some nice grammar because it provides significant lessons about life, human behavior, help students develop critical thinking skills. Okay, critical thinking, nice piece of vocab. Perceive, nice piece of vocab. Consequences, nice piece of vocabulary. And past actions. Now, I've noticed that here there is a little grammar mistake. There is a word missing. There should be the word and here. So human behavior and helps students develop critical thinking skills and perceive ... So this is probably the first and only grammar mistake in this essay here. So the grammar is definitely quite good. So in summary for this conclusion, I think it's okay. It's clearly got the opinion, which is very important. But I think these words here should be used for the body paragraphs. The conclusion is important, yes, but it doesn't need to be too long and it doesn't need to include any new information. It would be better if the student wrote more in the body paragraphs. Now, in total, this essay was only 219 words, which is a bit short, but you do not get penalized for writing a little bit under 250 words. But it's going to be a problem because if you write less words, well, there's a smaller chance that you can show the examiner that you have a wide range of grammar or a wide range of vocabulary. So that's something that the student should definitely think about for next time. They should write more words and develop their answers more because they've got great grammar, they've got great vocabulary. So if they use more of this grammar, more of this vocabulary, well, this could boost their grammar score, their vocab score, their task response score. All right, so let's go down now and we will give a band score for each of the 4 criteria. Let's start with task response. I would definitely give this a 7. The student has answered the question, they've talked about both views, they've given their opinion, they've supported their answers, but the support could be better. There's not enough support, which is why it's limited to a band 7 here. Coherence and cohesion. This is a tough one for me. I'm in between a 6 and a 7, but I think I will give it a 7. Because it does flow quite well. I just think sometimes it's a little bit mechanical, but there were some good examples of referencing and it has a logical structure. There are 4 clear paragraphs. So I'll go for a 7 here. Lexical resource. Well, this is between a 7 and an 8 for me because there's definitely a lot of less common vocabulary, but is there a big enough range? I don't know. I don't think so. So I'm going to go for a 7 here as well. Grammatical range and accuracy, like we talked about, there weren't really any mistakes. There were some complex sentences. There were some simple sentences as well. But I just don't think the range was big enough to push it up to that band 8. So I'm going to award a 7 here. Sorry, let me write that again. A 7 here for grammar. So the overall band score is pretty simple. This would be a band 7.0. So in summary, next time the student needs to support their ideas more. They need to use more less common vocabulary, a wider range of grammar structures, and try to make their linking a little bit less mechanical.